Robin, you're missing all the fun, man. Unless there were like mice that got under the hood and chewed up some wires. Yeah, Kyler is smiling behind the camera. It's like when you go to the doctors, you know, in your veins. Yeah. Hello viewers, welcome to Keith's Auto and Truck Repair. Today we have a 2018 Toyota Camry. I don't know what size engine this one is. It's a 4-cylinder. We'll figure out a little bit with the scan tool what engine size this is. The customer complaint on this vehicle is the check engine light remains on the dash while the engine is running. This vehicle was dropped off here a couple of days ago. When we were getting ready to drive it in the shop, the battery died. So hopefully the check engine light is going to be on the dash. And if the check engine light is not on, I hope we have some pending codes in the engine computer. We have a battery charger on the battery right now to keep the battery, to charge the battery. So now the first thing we're going to do is let's go in the vehicle, let's start it. Hopefully the check engine light is going to be on. And then before we go in the vehicle, I want to give a shout out to our famous cameraman behind the camera, cameraman Kyler. Thanks for being here. And also the customer told me that there were some components that were changed on this engine while they were trying to fix the issue. I believe the cam sensors were changed and the crank sensor, if I remember correctly. Customer told me, Dio, my cousin had the vehicle, so I don't know. Something is happening with cousins lately. We actually had another Corolla here, another Toyota. That one was a Corolla. Customer said, you know, he came here, we did a diagnosis. You guys will see that video. Hopefully that video will come out before this one. He was driving, he gave the car to his cousin. He told the cousin to bring the vehicle here, but the cousin tried fixing it himself, and then it made it even worse. So they had to tow it here, and we ended up fixing it, but you know, it needed a lot more than than what we had quoted him before. So anyways, not to throw the cousins under the bus over there. I'm sure there are other cousins out there that do great work. But yeah, so what the owner of this vehicle told me was, you know, his cousin, he's very mechanically inclined, was trying to fix it himself. He replaced a couple components, but the vehicle is still not fixed. So let's go in the vehicle, let's read some codes. Hopefully we have codes in the engine computer, and then we're gonna come back here under the hood to see if we have some code, to see if we're gonna see those components that were changed. So now let's go in the vehicle. All right, so we are in the vehicle. I'm going to start the engine. Let's see if the check engine light is gonna remain on the dash. This vehicle only has 79,000 miles, 841. Doesn't have a lot of miles, and especially for a Toyota, this is nothing. Okay, so the engine is running. We have a couple lights on the dash, which is good. Since the battery was a little bit weak, I thought the check engine light was gonna go off, but it didn't go off, so that's good. Check engine light is remaining on. Traction control light is on. I'm gonna show you guys the dash. So right there, as you can see, the engine is running and the check engine light is remaining on the dash. We have other lights on the dash. So customer's complaint confirmed. I'm gonna turn off the engine. Let's turn the key on. I have a battery charger on the battery. So let's scan this and see what we're gonna find. This car is in good shape. Yeah, and it's clean too. Yeah, I like working on clean cars. It's pretty clean. All right, so right there, scan tool has identified the vehicle, 2018 Toyota Camry with a 2.5 liter engine. And this vehicle has 79,000 miles, 841. Let's click OK. Let's do a code scan. Let's see what we have on all the control units on the vehicle. We have one code, only one code in the engine computer, P0335-15. Crankshaft position sensor A circuit, short to battery or open. There's a crankshaft sensor circuit fault. Okay, now I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this code. This code is usually caused by a problem in the crankshaft sensor circuit or a defective sensor. Okay, if we had a performance code, like if we had a crank sensor performance code or a correlation code, I was gonna say we need to check the mechanical side of the engine, but since we have a circuit code, the issue is probably the wiring of the sensor or the sensor itself. So this should be pretty straightforward. Now, I should have been saying that because usually when I say that, Kyler makes fun of me all the time when I say, oh, Kyler, we're gonna film this, it's gonna be pretty easy. I don't say that anymore because usually when I say it's gonna be easy, it ends up being difficult and takes too long. So I shouldn't say that. I should just say, we gotta do some tests and see what we're gonna find. Kyler's laughing behind the camera. Kyler, I like the setup you got back there.
Isn't it nice?
You know, sitting on a stool and pretty comfortable. You look comfortable there.
I am, yeah. Do this more often.
Yeah, nice. All right, so let's wait until the scan tool finishes scanning all these control units on the vehicle. I mean, this is probably just going to be a crank sensor problem because, I mean, this is a Toyota. I mean, Toyotas are well-built cars for the most part, okay? And I don't usually see circuit problems on Toyotas at 79,000 miles. Like, not really. Unless there were like mice that got under the hood and chewed up some wires. But yeah, now we're not gonna assume, we're gonna do some tests to figure out what's going on. And this is why it's misfiring a little bit, because it feels like when Gavin drove the vehicle in the shop, he told me that Robin told him that he believes the engine is misfiring. So yeah, if the crank sensor is not working properly, if it's not reporting the right signal to the engine computer, the engine can misfire. All right, so the scan tool is done scanning all the control units. We have one code in the engine computer, one code in the cruise control unit. So we have the same code in the engine computer and the cruise control. So P0335-15, crankshaft position sensor A, circuit short to battery or open. That's kind of odd. How can you have a short to battery or an open at the same time? If you have a short to battery, that's usually short to power. I don't know. We're gonna do some tests. And then we have one code in the ABS control unit, C1201. It says engine/EV control system fault. And then these control units over here don't have any codes. We have one code in the door motor modules, door motor rear left, B2313, glass position initialization incomplete. Interesting. All right, so I'm gonna notify the customer about all these codes, but in this video, we're going to focus on this one code that we have in the engine computer. We have the same code on the generic side of the scan tool. Actually, on the generic side of the scan tool, it's P0338, but on the OE side, it's P0335. I don't know if there's a big difference there, but yeah, I just wanted to point that out. So on the generic side of the tool, it says P0338, crankshaft position sensor A, circuit high. Okay, so when you have a circuit high code, usually that means the voltage on the signal wire is remaining high constantly. Now, I believe this is a Hall effect sensor, the crank sensor. It's most likely a Hall effect sensor, so it's going to have power and ground and then signal. So power is most likely going to be 5 volt, and then there will be ground, and then there will be sensor signal. So if the voltage on the signal wire is constantly stuck at 5 volt or 4.5, that would mean the signal is always high or voltage is high. So that's how this code is going to be set. I've seen sensor wiring get hot and then melt together. You can have the supply voltage wire melt into the signal wire, and that voltage would bleed into the signal wire and cause the voltage on the signal wire to be high all the time. That can happen. Or you can have a faulty sensor that can cause the voltage on the signal wire to be high all the time, because when the crankshaft is spinning, when the reluctor wheel passes, you know, in front of the tip of the sensor, the voltage should go up and down. And the sensor does that. It should actually pull that voltage to ground and up as that window moves away from as the trigger wheel moves away from the sensor. So if the sensor doesn't do that anymore, the voltage is going to remain high on the signal wire. That would cause this code to be set. So it could be a sensor issue or a wiring issue. And then we have another code on the generic side, P0125. It says insufficient coolant temperature for closed loop fuel control. All right, so let's focus on the crank sensor circuit code that we have first, and then we're going to erase the codes, and then we will test drive this and see what happens. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's go to the OE side of the scan tool. We know the code we have. Let's go into the engine computer. Now this code is pretty straightforward. It's pretty self-explanatory. You know, we either gonna have a circuit problem or a sensor problem. So let me see if there's any other codes, because sometimes when you go into the engine computer, you might see other codes. So as you can see, we only have this one code. So now what I want to do is I want to go under the hood and find where the crank sensor is located. And then we're going to use our lab scope. We're going to back probe all the wires at the sensor. We're going to start the engine. Let's see what voltages we have at the sensor. We're going to look at the waveform that the sensor is creating while the engine is running. We can analyze the waveform. When we analyze the waveform, that will give us an indication or tell us what's going on with the sensor or the circuit. So now what I want to do is, I don't know where the sensor is located. Let's go to our guided component test. Let's see if we can figure out where this sensor is located. So this is a Camry. Which Camry is this, Kyler? Is this a Camry LE?
I think so.
Yeah. Can you check back there, please? Sweet. So it's a Camry LE. Okay, let's go to engine. Okay, right here, crankshaft sensor, component information. Okay, so it's a 3-wire sensor, just like I said, Hall effect sensor. So first wire is going to be blue. That's the crank sensor signal. And then we have second wire, which is a pink wire. That will be the sensor ground. And then third wire will be violet wire. That's going to be our 5-volt reference. And then let's see where the sensor is located. So over here it says component location on left front side of engine behind starter motor near block / bell housing joint. Okay, so on left front side of engine behind starter motor near block / bell housing joint. So this sensor is around the starter motor. So hopefully it's not really crazy to find, and hopefully the wiring can be pretty easy to get to. Now, if you guys want to hear about, if you guys want to know about how this sensor works, you can pause this and read up. You can read the operation, how this sensor works and how it creates a square wave. All this info is right here. So for now that we know where the sensor is located, let's go under the hood and do some tests. The starter lives under the intake manifold. So the starter is somewhere there. I don't know if Kylo can see it. Yeah, it's that's the starter right there. Yeah, that's the starter over there. Yep. So yeah, it's hard to get to. Now, service info told us that the crank sensor is somewhere around the starter. So it looks like I'm gonna have to remove this air tube, this air duct tube over here. I might have to remove the air filter box too to get to the sensor. Or I can do my test at the computer, because this is the engine computer here. But I don't want to do that, because if I back probe the sensor wiring at the computer, if we have a problem in the wiring down the wire, I might miss it. Or I may not see it properly. So I'm going to have to connect at the sensor so I can see if we have a problem in the wiring between the computer and the sensor. I'll see it better if I'm connected at the sensor. So I'm not gonna show you the boring part of removing all these covers and all this stuff so I can get to the sensor. I will get to the sensor and then I'll bring you guys back up. All right, guys, I was able to get to the sensor off camera. I disconnected the sensor. The bolt for the sensor is completely rusty, which tells me that this sensor has never been changed. Now, I looked at service info, so cameraman Carlo will put this up on the screen. So this is what we have on Metro Pro Demand. So this shows me where the sensor is located, although we already read about it earlier, but I wanted to see exactly. So this is our sensor, this is the connector. So I was able to follow the steps on the service info to figure out where the sensor is located. So as you can see right here on this picture, it shows us the sensor. Okay, so having the right service info makes a big difference. Yeah. So I went through this, and they even give us the torque spec of the sensor bolt. 10 Newton meters. All right, so after I went through the service info, the next thing I did was, let me stop the screen recording. I'm sure cameraman Carl is gonna appreciate that. Yeah, so after I went through the service info, the next thing I did was I removed this air piece that was here, the inlet piece. I removed it, and then I got to this wiring harness, so I removed this bolt. And then this over here is the electrical connector of the sensor that I disconnected. Now, the sensor is kind of hidden back here. Let's see if cameraman Kyler can show you guys the sensor. Yeah, so do you see, oops, it's probably gonna focus on this thing over here. Yeah, there. You see that rusty bolt? That's the sensor, so it is right here, yeah. This over here is our crank sensor. Perfect, okay. There it is. We can actually get to it. So now I'm going to back probe the wires of the sensor. So Kyler, if you can show everyone this, we're gonna use these long test drive test leads, because right now we're gonna start the engine. Hopefully the sensor is gonna act up now. If it doesn't, we might wanna drive the car to see if the sensor is dropping out or if the signal is gonna look weird while we're test driving. So I got my test leads right there. We have our back probing tools here. So now, first thing we're gonna do is, Kyler, if you can show everyone this connector. I'm going to remove this cover. There's a little cover here. My hands might be in the way, but maybe, can you get it from up here? Yeah, right there. So I'm gonna remove this cover. These things break very easily. I hope you can see, Kyler. No, you cannot see? Cameraman Kyler's like, I don't know what you're doing. So I'm just removing this cover. So once this cover is off, we're gonna have access to the wires right here. See those wires? See how I can see the wires now? Okay. So now the next thing I need to do, I'm sorry, my hands will be in the way. So I'm going to, actually this wire is pretty tiny. I'm going to back probe those wires. So let me grab, these are brand new back probing tools I got from AES Wave. My friend Carlos from AES Wave sold me this back probing. Here, see? It's like when you go to the doctors, you know, in your veins. Yeah. No, don't try this. Don't try this at home. I mean, don't try this on yourself. Back probe the car, not you. All right, so let me see. All right, so we're gonna back probe the first wire. First wire is back probed. Now we have to be careful because we don't want these back probing tools touching each other. Making good connection there. Yeah, perfect. And then last one. There. So we back probed all the wires. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to connect my test leads to all my back probing tools, and then we're gonna reconnect the electrical connector of the sensor to the sensor, and then we're gonna see what we're gonna see on the lab scope. So let's see. Robin loves using the lab scope. Robin, you're missing all the fun, man.
No.
All right, so okay, so guys, I'm going to back probe this. I'm gonna connect this over here. Okay, this is gonna go right there. So I'm gonna connect all the wires, all my test leads to all these back probing tools, and then we're gonna reconnect the sensor. Yeah. So there was a crank sensor circuit fault on this car. I think it says crank sensor circuit high, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah, and then when the customer dropped off this car, he told me that there were some sensors that were changed. I don't remember exactly. He told me on the phone, but I don't remember. I think he said either the crank sensor or cam sensor was changed.
Okay.
But when I look at the bolt on the crank sensor, the bolt looks really rusty.
Oh, it wasn't
So
changed.
yeah, it looks like it wasn't changed. So I don't know what someone changed. I don't know, but
Fix it now.
yeah. So right now I'm back probing all the wires at the sensor,
Alright.
and then we're gonna look at the waveform that the sensor is gonna put out,
Okay.
and then that's it. This is a Toyota, and it has 79,000 miles. So I don't think we're gonna have a wiring issue.
No.
I kind of doubt it.
Yeah.
The issue will most likely be the sensor, but you know how we do it.
Make sure.
Yeah, we're not gonna assume.
Nope.
We gotta test.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so test, don't guess. All right,
Absolutely.
so right here, cameraman Kyler, I hope you can see this. So we back probed all the wires. So now I'm gonna reconnect this sensor. I'm gonna reconnect the electrical connector back to the sensor. So this will be the fun part. I don't think we're gonna, I don't know.
Can you see?
I don't think Kyle will be able to see it. There's no room over here. There's no room, I don't know. It's gonna be hard because even disconnecting it was a pain. So there it is, yeah. I got it reconnected. We're back probing all the wires. Okay, perfect. And I hope my wires didn't freaking come out. I hope I'm still making good connection there. Well, there's one way to figure out. We're gonna try to start it. If it starts, it means it's connected. If it doesn't start, it means it's not connected. Yeah, so let me push this. Yeah, okay, let me reconnect this guy first because I disconnected these wires. And then this one for the water pump. This one has an electric water pump.
Fancy.
Yeah. Those fancy big electric water pumps that they have on the hybrid vehicles. Guys, put your bets in now. What do you think is wrong? Cameraman Carlo, what do you think is wrong? This is my ground. We're gonna put our ground over here at the battery.
Probably the sensor, I'd imagine.
Probably the sensor. Are you just repeating what I said?
No, of course not. This is my own. I'm gonna put this my own. All right.
All right. Now we're using a red test lead over here on the blue trace on the lab scope, but it doesn't matter. You know, you can even put a green over here. They're all test leads. There's no big difference in this regard in what we're doing right now. All right, so I gotta make sure that my test leads are away from the fan because you do not want to damage your test leads. Yeah, let me see. Let me make sure my test leads are away from the fan because I've damaged test leads that way before in the past. All right, so we're good. Now, Robin, you're gonna start this for me.
Okay.
Let me get my screen recording going first. We're gonna use 3 channels. Let's see if we are making connections first. Let's go down to 20 volts. Let's go down to 50. Okay, can you turn the key on? Okay. Good. So key is on. Right now with the key on engine off, we have 5 volt, so 5.02 volts on the yellow trace. We also have 5.04 volt on the blue trace. And then we have 0.05 volt on the green trace. So looking at this, this tells me that the green trace is our ground, and then it looks like the yellow trace is going to be our 5 volt reference, and then the blue trace is most likely our sensor signal. Now, this is the voltage on the signal is high right now. Let's see if it's going to go down when the engine starts. So go ahead and start the engine. Yep. Haha, come here. Robin, come here. This sensor is not creating a square wave. The sensor is bad. This is why we have, so the signal wire, which is, in this case, I believe it's a blue wire, it's a blue trace, it's stuck at 5 volts. Yeah, it's supposed to make a square wave.
Yeah.
It's not making a square wave. It's a sensor.
Yep.
Now, here's the question. Is it a sensor problem or is it a reluctor problem? Because you could also have a reluctor issue
Right.
on the flex plate.
Yep.
Yeah. Now how do you determine that?
Can we remove the starter? Can we inspect it?
We could. Yeah, we can remove the starter, inspect it. We could do that.
Right.
That's probably going to be too much work. What you can do is you can remove the sensor, plug it in, turn the key on, and use a piece of metal and push it in front of the sensor. So you can kind of like simulate. I can kind of be the reluctor wheel to see if it's going to create the waveform. Yeah,
that's cool.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
We're going to do that.
Yep.
Because if we do that and then the sensor makes a square wave, then we will know it's not the sensor issue, it's probably the reluctor wheel. Yeah, Kyler is smiling behind the camera as well. Yeah, see, this is why, you see how it's shaking like this?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the issue. So now we could also have a sensor. We could have it, because the way, actually turn it off. Just turn it off and keep the key on. Yeah, this is pretty cool. And this is why knowing sensor operation and circuit operation is very crucial to diagnosing this kind of stuff, because this is a Hall effect sensor. So you have power, ground, and signal.
Okay.
So the way it works is the computer would send 5 volt in the 5 volt reference circuit or wire, and then it's going to also send 5 volt on the signal wire. Okay. So the sensor's job is to pull that voltage to ground when the reluctor wheel is passing on the tip of the sensor.
Yeah.
But if the sensor is faulty, it's not going to pull that voltage to ground. So that's going to cause the sensor circuit high code to be set in the engine computer. That's why right now with the key on engine off, we have 5 volt on the yellow trace. We also have 5 volt on the blue trace, which is normal.
Right.
Okay. If the voltage is on the, because if I remember correctly, when the trigger wheel is, when the metal part is below the sensor, if it's on the tip of the sensor, the voltage is high.
Okay.
And then when it goes away, it comes down.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's vice versa. I don't know. You guys can correct me in the comment. Yeah, so basically, anyways, so when it goes up, I think we have the reluctor wheel over there. I mean, I can show it, but I want to remove the sensor. So here's what I want to do. Right now, we have 2 issues. We either have a sensor that's not pulling the voltage to ground, okay, or we have a reluctor wheel issue. So now the first thing I want to do is I would like to disconnect the sensor to see if the voltage on the other wire is going to go down.
Okay.
So if you disconnect the sensor and the voltage stays high on both wires, the signal wire and the 5 volt wire, that can also be good. Okay, that can also be good. That will tell us that the wiring is good. So we can already rule out a possible wiring issue, and then we can just focus on the sensor or the reluctor wheel. I believe it's a sensor issue, but again, we're not going to assume. We are going to double check. So let me see if I can disconnect this. So I'm gonna leave this up here. So let me, yeah, can you hold the light for me? Make sure it's not in the shot. So I'm gonna disconnect the sensor. Let me see if I can. See if I can get to it. Yeah, so I disconnected the sensor. What are the voltages on the lab scope screen? Okay, so we disconnected the sensor. Carla, can you show this over here? See, sensor is unplugged, okay? We unplugged it. We still have 5 volt on the yellow trace, and we also have 5 volt on the blue trace. So this over here tells me that the wiring is good. So from the computer to the sensor, the voltage that the computer is sending to the sensor is fine.
Okay.
So now we need to remove the sensor.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna undo that bolt. I don't know if we're gonna film this because it's gonna be a pain. I don't think we will film it. We're just gonna, you know, we're probably gonna have to use a swivel to undo that bolt. Let's take the sensor out. And then once the sensor comes out, we're gonna reconnect it to the wire, and then we're gonna get a piece of metal. So basically we're gonna try to get the metal close to the tip of the sensor and away to see if it's gonna create a square wave.
Okay.
If it doesn't, then we can make the call. And the other quick test you can do, which is not always 100% accurate, you can use a piece of metal and take it close to the sensor tip to see if it's gonna attract, because it's supposed to be magnetic.
Right.
If it's not attracting, that's another dead giveaway of a defective sensor.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm gonna take the sensor out so we can test it, and then I'll bring you guys back up.